right. So remember that incredible feeling, getting that first real paycheck? It's like, whoa, adulting officially unlocked. But then it kind of hits you, right? What
Yeah,
exactly are you supposed to do with this hard-earned cash?
it's a big moment, no doubt. That first paycheck, it represents a lot. And luckily, this article we're diving into today, it's from Nippon India Mutual Fund. It's like they snuck you a cheat sheet. They lay out exactly how to make that money work for you, not stress you out.
And the coolest part, they don't bog you down with like stock market gibberish right off the bat. They jump straight into something I'm guessing a lot of us can relate to, debt. Kind of interesting, actually, how they make tackling debt priority number one.
You know what's so crucial about that? It's the way debt, especially early on, it can really snowball. And not the fun kind. They talk about avoiding interest, and that's where understanding this thing called compounding is huge. So picture this. You owe, say, 10,000 euro on a credit card. High interest, right? Every month, that interest gets added on. But here's the kicker. It's not just on that original 10,000, it's on the growing amount. Builds up crazy fast.
Okay, yeah, that paints a pretty clear picture of why they're so gung-ho about ditching debt ASP. So are they basically saying, like, buckle down, be super serious with your money right from the get-go?
Not even close. Money management, yes, absolutely. But they frame it as this skill you're developing. Like you're leveling up in real life. And the thing that's really in your favor right now, time. You've got it on your side. The earlier you start making those smart choices, even if they seem small, the bigger the reward later down the line.
Gotcha. So we're not talking about any get-rich-quick schemes here. It's all about playing the long game. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where they bring in investing and how it's never too soon to get started. Because those small, consistent actions now, they can have a massive impact later on. And why? You guessed it, that compounding effect again.
Speaking of investing, this is where the article mentions mutual funds, which, I gotta admit, if you're new to all this, it can sound a little intimidating at first.
Totally get it. But what's great is they break down why mutual funds can be a really good fit for beginners. Imagine this. Instead of you putting all your money into one single stock, risky, right?
Hmm.
You're pooling it with other people's investments. So now you're invested in a bunch of different companies.
So you're spreading out the risk, which makes a lot of sense, especially when you're still kind of figuring things out.
Precisely. In fact, they even talk about having a higher risk appetite when you're younger, which basically means since you've got more time to bounce back if the market takes a dip, you can afford to be a bit bolder with your investments.
Bolder. So what kind of investments are we talking about here? Like, what would be a good example?
Yeah, that makes total sense, actually. I wish someone had told me that when I got my first paycheck. Pretty sure I just blew it all on takeout, thinking I was like an adulting champion. Happens to the best of us.
But okay, speaking of making those paychecks stretch, the article gets into this thing called a systematic investment plan, SIP, they call it.
Ah, SIPs. They're great, especially for someone just starting out. It's all about consistency,
Yeah.
and starting small, no need to go big right away. So imagine this. You decide on an amount you're comfortable with, could be 500, whatever works, and you invest that same amount every single month into a mutual fund you've chosen.
Okay, see, that already sounds way less daunting than what I had in my head. But I gotta ask, how does consistently putting in like a small amount actually make a difference long term?
That's the beauty. It leverages this awesome thing called Ruby cost averaging. Basically, when the market's down, your fixed amount buys you more units in the mutual fund. When the market's up, you get fewer units. Over time, this averages out, and often you actually get a better return than if you'd invested a big lump sum all at once.
So it's like built-in protection from those market swings everyone's always talking about.
You got it. And just to make this super real, imagine you've got your eye on a new scooter a couple years down the line, right? By starting a FAP now, even with a small amount, your money is working for you, growing towards that goal.
Okay, I love the scooter example. Makes investing feel less like abstract and more about actually getting something exciting.
Exactly. And, speaking of planning for the future, the article kind of shifts gears to something equally important, even if it's not as thrilling as a new scooter. Health insurance.
Yeah, they called it unsexy but crucial. And man, do I ever learn that the hard way. Put off getting health insurance for way too long, thinking it'll never happen to me. Famous last words, right?
It's definitely one of those things we don't think about until we have to, but getting it sorted early has its perks. Like when you're younger, you're considered lower risk, which usually means lower premiums. Plus, and I don't know if you know this in India, you can actually get tax deductions for those health insurance premiums. Section 80D of the Income Tax Act.
Wait, hold up. So the government basically gives you a little bonus for being responsible. That's kind of amazing. What does that actually mean, though, Section 80D, for someone who's like new to all this?
Oh, it's more straightforward than it sounds.
Yeah.
Basically, you reduce the amount of taxes you owe each year by the amount you spend on those health insurance premiums. Up to a certain limit, of course.
Yeah.
Free money for taking care of yourself.
All right, I'm definitely looking into that. Okay, so we've covered investing for the future, protecting ourselves with health insurance. What else does this article highlight as like essential for financial well-being?
Last but not least, they hit on something that's so important to have in your back pocket. An emergency fund.
Ah, yes, the emergency fund. For the longest time, I thought that was just like financial advisors trying to suck all the fun out of life, you know? And then, well, life happened. And I realized just how crucial it is to have that safety net.
It's true, though. Life loves to throw curveballs when you least expect it. And the article really drives this home, talking about how unpredictable, well, pretty much everything is. They even give you examples. Sudden job loss, unexpected medical expenses, which, by the way, can totally happen even with health insurance.
Yeah, no arguments there. Those are definitely scenarios I'd rather be prepared for. So, what are we talking about here? A good emergency fund? Like, how much should someone actually aim to save?
The general rule of thumb is you want to have enough to cover at least 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. This way it acts as a cushion, if you lose your job, have a medical emergency, or just something unexpected pops up.
3 to 6 months of expenses, that sounds daunting. Especially when you're just starting out, every rupee counts. Any tips on how to actually build that up without feeling totally overwhelmed?
Start small. Be consistent. Even setting aside a small chunk of each paycheck, 10%, or whatever you can swing it, really adds up over time. They actually suggest looking into something called liquid funds as a good option for that emergency fund.
Liquid funds, I've definitely heard that term thrown around, but could use a little refresher. What are they? How do they work?
So, in a nutshell, it's a type of mutual fund. But instead of investing in like stocks and things, it invests in very short-term debt securities. They're considered pretty safe, and the big thing is they offer high liquidity, meaning you need to access your money fast. You can, usually within one business day. Perfect for those just-in-case moments.
So your money's readily available when you need it, but it's also like earning a little something on the side. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Wow, okay, it's like you just took all the mystery out of this whole financial thing. We covered a ton smart ways to handle debt, dipping our toes into investing with mutual funds and those SIPs, why health insurance is a must, and how to build that emergency fund safety net. And the best part is, it didn't feel like a lecture at all.
It's all about giving you the tools and knowledge to make smart choices, right?
Yeah.
And what I like about this article, they don't just like drop facts on you and peace out. They encourage you to keep digging. Remember how they mentioned those SIT calculators?
Oh, yeah.
They just kind of plant that seed, make you want to go, what's that all about?
Exactly. So, listener, thinking back on everything we've talked about today, what's sticking with you? Anything that really clicked or maybe even surprised you?
Could be the power of compounding, how it can work for you instead of against you. Or maybe it's that investing doesn't have to be scary, especially with something like the SIP. Whatever it is, just that willingness to learn, that's huge.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of taking action, if you had to pick one thing from our deep dive today, just one, to actually do this week, what would it be? Maybe sketching out a basic budget, doing a little research on a mutual fund that sounds interesting, or even just calling up your insurance company for a quote.
Baby steps, right.
Right.
Don't have to do it all at once. Even the tiniest step in the right direction, it makes a difference over time.
Love it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Right. Start small, stay consistent, keep learning. You got this. Who knows, maybe our next deep dive will be all about those mutual funds or creating a budget that actually works.
Now that's something to look forward to. Until then, happy investing, and remember, every little bit counts.
That's a wrap on this financial deep dive. We'll catch you in the next one, ready to tackle more money mysteries.